So I've watched a lot of superhero shows. And when I say a lot, I mean, well, I've watched every episode of every Spider-Man show ever produced since the 90s, except for this new one I've never heard of. I watched the 90s Spider-Man, X-Men, and this god-awful Avengers series, which I spent 20 minutes trying to find the name of. Aw, did you not have the rights to anyone people gave a fuck about? Well, tough shit. Neither did Spider-Man Unlimited, and they got creative. I'm talking Batman, Ben 10, Batman the Brave and the Bold, Ben 10 Alien Force, Batman Beyond, Ben 10 Ultimate Alien, Beware the Batman, Fuck Everything You Ever Loved the series, etc. Yet in the 3.5 years of my life that I wasted illegally watching 2 decades worth of silver screen superheroic hijinks, look, 13-year-old me didn't even know what pirating was. YouTube was the wild frickin' west back then. No series of televised hero episodes has been quite as incredible— wait, that adjective is taken, let me find a different one— has been quite so spectacular— wait, no, not you, you're up there though— has been quite as really good as Season 1 of Young Justice. This was a show that approached the concept of a DC animated series from a new angle, keeping parts of the well-established DCAU, but distancing themselves enough that they could get creative, specifically by focusing on, you guessed it, the teenage sidekick heroes. It doesn't always work when you try to get the best of both worlds, let alone try for the appeal of the Justice League, the freedom of new characters that no one knows but are related to characters we know super well, pun intended, the age relatability of Teen Titans, the art style of something between Justice League Unlimited and Avatar Legend of Korra, the episodic structure of Monster of the Week shows, and the progression and development to make you feel like you've experienced one story. But when you take it from a character and team-based angle, explore nuance and consequences well, and just have the most efficient goddamn storytelling I've seen since Avatar, then you can apparently pull off fucking miracles. And speaking of miracles, it was cancelled. Wait, no, that's not miracles, that's capitalism and toy sales. The miracle is that after 7 goddamn years, we finally got it back, prompting me to rewatch Season 1 and realize, holy shit, I remember every single episode. When you haven't watched a show in half a decade, it gets the, these are the episodes you actually need to watch, and here's the twice as many that you don't treatment. But for Young Justice, they're all on my really good, essential for the plot, may or may not make you cry list. It's a show that does more in 26 episodes than Steven Universe has done. Once I figured this out and recovered from the brain implosion that immediately followed, I got straight to work on, alright, but how the actual fuck, in order to share it with you today. I kind of ran down the basics just now, but let's take them one by one. Episodes, consequence, and character. So I've talked about episodes and episodicism in general a few times already, because it's essentially the atom of a show. No, not you, Adam. Well, that's a little better. You have Monster of the Week shows, and you have shows that are an 8-hour movie someone took scissors to. And then you have the ones that try to do both to varying degrees of success. But that's because a lot of shows that try end up missing all the key things that made Monsters of the Week work in the first place. I chalk it up to 3 things. Well, more like 2 things, but can we all just agree that 3 is a way better number anyways? So here they are. Wildly varying kinds of conflict, beginning with the status quo, and ending your goddamn episode. The first seems obvious. Keep it fresh. If you had Break into a Secret Base this episode, try Protect Person from Assassins on this one, or Get Thing to Destination. If Ant-Man proved anything, it's that you can take any kind of conflict and turn it super. Young Justice isn't so concerned with its overarching conflict that it's afraid to spend an entire episode infiltrating a prison secret agent style, splitting adults and children into 2 different universes, or wiping the entire team's memory. This show is so awesome at variation that every episode feels standout. Alternatively, you could throw this whole thing out the window and come up with the funniest show you can let a 10-year-old watch in good conscience. The second and third points are where a lot of shows mess up. In event-based storytelling, which is what each of these episodes are, you begin with a status quo, a normal. Something upsets the status quo, the episode is spent dealing with that, and then we return to the way things are. We return to stability. This is actually one of the big problems with Young Justice Season 2, which I love anyways. Each episode still deals with one specific conflict that's resolved at the end, but isn't ever stable because there's this big alien invasion that's keeping us from ever getting a resolution. There are too many sources of tension left unresolved at the end of an episode to work in the way Monster of the Week is supposed to. Whatever our heroes have accomplished seems like a step towards resolution instead of a resolution in and of itself. Is this a bad thing? Not necessarily. I love shows that do this a lot more than I love typical Monster of the Week shows. And I'm someone who generally prefers my stories to lean into overarching plots. But it does sacrifice one of the primary things that made Season 1 so great. In Season 1, you have the overarching conflict of the light, but it never feels like the characters are completing Step 17 towards beating them. Secrets has nothing to do with the light. Who the fuck cares? That was awesome! The main conflict of the show stays fresh and unique. We get varied antagonists instead of, oh look, it's the Reach dude again. Fuck that guy. But then, how can Young Justice perpetually feel like it's moving forwards if it's doing this whole stopping and starting thing? Well, I never said you had to return to the same status quo, and Young Justice almost never ever does. If we look at a typical Monster of the Week show, the status quo changes like maybe twice every 12 episodes. In some, like Teen Titans, it genuinely never changes. They start in the exact same place every single episode, tackle a new thing, rinse, repeat. Great show, Young Justice is way better. So the first episode is the team's origin story, and a lot of shows will do this. It introduces the characters, gets them together, puts them through hell like good little protagonists, and then ends with the status quo established. With most Monster of the Week stuff, that's where it ends. I mean, look at Ben 10 Alien Force. The team's together now, and the rest of the series will be spent like Teen Titans. But wait, in Young Justice, the team's not actually together here. Teen Titans has a set cast of characters that can be played efficiently over an intro that frickin' bops, my gods. They have a leader, they know each other, they have specific dynamics that are pretty set in stone. This show is taking a little more time to put the team dynamic together because here's Miss Martian, and we'll spend this episode establishing the flirty romances that never go anywhere, her Starfire-esque place on the team, etc. But I'm sure after this, the team will need a leader, and a whole episode can be done where they struggle with that, and then they actually pick the best leader for the team as opposed to the person who's best known. These are 3 consecutive episodes, too. Any one of them returns to a status quo that could theoretically last for 12 episodes each if they wanted to milk it, so by tossing it at me consecutively, I felt like a lot more had happened. Every episode makes my love list, because each is important, and each is done really, really well. We only get 1 episode of downtime where we've established the team and get to see them in action, before the next one throws Artemis into the mix. Do you see what I mean here? These are 26 new and exciting conflicts that aren't tied together one to the next, but the sense of progression comes from the conceit that each episode changes how the characters interact with each other, how they'll approach next episode's challenges. Young Justice cares about consequences, in a way that kind of set the standard for every show I watched moving forwards. A standard which was oh so rarely met. The best example I can think of here is the episode Failsafe, which is your classic "it was a dream simulation the whole time" reveal. In the sim, the Justice League dies and the team has to step up as the world's heroes, but they're all picked off one by one as they desperately try to destroy the alien warship and save the planet, only to find that after they destroy it, there's another one waiting to take its place, and everyone died for nothing. Any other show would end when they wake up and realize none of it was real. Characters laugh it off, back to business. But because this is Young Justice, we don't do that. They all wake up, but Batman reveals that everything went horribly wrong. Ms. Martian's powers could have killed the whole team, and now everyone has to reckon with the choices they made when they thought it was real. I'm not talking everyone looks horrified and then back to normal either. I'm talking the next episode is full of therapy sessions. That's more consideration to what would be a traumatic experience than I've seen in just about any episodic show ever. Failsafe might be the most blatant example of Young Justice giving a shit about consequences, but that attitude is present throughout the whole run. When someone has a character arc, they actually start acting differently. Revolutionary, I know. Wally gets way less beats of being the lazy, clout-chasing, womanizing dickhead after his awesome solo episode where he goes through his arc. You might not even consciously notice that, but the showrunners absolutely did. Which brings us back to the heart of Young Justice, character. I've genuinely never seen any show handle its characters with quite the nuance this one does. In TV, we're used to having a roster of main characters, recurring characters, etc. But life doesn't work that way, and neither does Young Justice. No member of the team is the main character throughout the whole series. And the show isn't afraid to involve the rest of its cast in main roles, give them story arcs, etc. Just because Roy and Captain Marvel aren't part of the team doesn't mean they won't get a focus. It all feels organic, natural, and the kind of realistic that I appreciate in anything I read, write, and watch. So there you have it. Young Justice's first season is a tightly woven masterpiece, and as the licensed arbiter of everything in the universe, I hereby name it the absolute epitome of superhero television. Second place goes to Spectacular Spider-Man, which, oh hey, it had one of the same showrunners. I didn't know that until I had to research this episode, but it makes a surprising amount of sense. And then third place goes to this show, which takes a bunch of people, assembles them into a team, develops that dynamic, throws in an archer at some point, and then has them deal with an alien invasion next season. I'm starting to think I have a pretty specific taste. Anyhow, I'm J-Maniac, and I'll see you all later.